Check, check, check. Michael for Aaron. Michael for Aaron. Woohoo! Microphone, microphone. I guess the sound is all okay. It's coming into my in-ears. It's going out on the stream. Here we go. Check, 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 1, 2. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. I'm Michael Schack, and today another session, another Q&A session on electronic drums. These are the electronic drums. I have everything set up, a couple of camera positions or shots as well, because there's some very specific questions. And actually, thank you again for sending interesting questions this week, because it's going to be an very interesting Q&A session today. And the first question just came in actually like a couple of minutes ago, and it's from Paul Reading. And Paul is actually a question that is really, really interesting, because I think some people might have tried it already, but Paul is saying the following. I'm trying to connect a microphone through my electronic drum module so I can record my cymbals which are not triggered. So Paul is combining, of course, acoustic cymbals with electronic pads or an electronic drum module for the kick, snare and tom sounds. And now he's saying, can you advise of the best method to actually connect this microphone, like I'm using a microphone right now, to connect this microphone to his drum module? And he's saying, I thought I might be able to use auxiliary in on the module, so one of the auxiliary in trigger inputs, but this does not seem to work, which is logic. Any help greatly appreciated. Top man, thank you, Paul. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's not possible to connect a microphone directly into an auxiliary input, trigger input on your module. The only input that might work is connecting your microphone to the mix-in input on your module, because the mix-in input is actually an audio input. And this is how a module works. So you have a bunch of trigger inputs, which are analog jack inputs, okay? But that doesn't mean they actually will take audio signals. It means they actually take electronic impulses coming from the pad sensors going directly into the module through those trigger inputs. So at the other end of these trigger inputs, there's no audio converters, you know. There's no converter which actually translates incoming analog audio into digital audio so you can actually work with it inside the module. No. On the other side of those trigger inputs, there's MIDI converters. And these MIDI converters actually translate those signals into MIDI data, which is then digitally managed inside the module, putting sounds on top and the velocities and the speed and so on, so on, so on. So these trigger inputs, which are kick, snare, toms, cymbals, and also the auxiliary inputs, are not audio inputs. So you cannot use them just to connect a microphone and then thinking, my module will understand it's an audio, and then I will be able to hear my microphone, my singing through the PA. No, that's not what it is. You need to have analog audio to digital audio converters on the other side of those inputs. And the only one that has it is the mix input, okay? The mix-in input, that's an audio input. The master output of your module and the individual outputs, which also have jack outputs, those actually have digital audio to analog audio converters. So not only you have one direction in the mix-in, A to D, but you can also go D to A. On some mix-in modules you can actually add effects, so that's then a digital. For instance, I'll give you another example. When you connect a microphone to the trigger inputs of the spd-sx, that won't work either, because those trigger inputs, T1, T2, actually are also trigger inputs with, on the other end, trigger to MIDI converters, so no audio converters. But when you connect your microphone to the audio inputs, because on the spd-sx there's also stereo audio inputs with their own level control preamp, that might work. But then again, when you connect just one microphone inside an input, you'll only have one side. So the best thing, when you want to use microphones, any guitar, bass or whatever, is actually to use a mixer. And these mixers can be very compact, okay? I'll switch to this. So this is one of the mixers. This is a mixer I actually developed together with, I mentioned it again, it's called Drum Mix, and it has specific microphone inputs. It has specific inputs for guitar and bass, and also for your computer and line whatever signals. And then you have those preamps these faders work as preamps and at the same time as level controllers, going out USB to your smartphone or through the master out directly into the mixin of your module. So you always need audio signal processing to be able to connect microphones or any musical instrument, and then audio signal processing mixing goes out to the module inside into the mix-in input, not into an auxiliary input, because that's actually a trigger input. Okay, Paul, I hope this answers your question. And the next question, and this is also a very interesting one, comes from Jo. And he's saying, hi Michael, I applied choke technique on CY13 for first time and now it is stuck on choke. Any easy tips to fix? Then it's important for me to know, Jo, what kind of module are you using? So you are using the CY13 and it's always choking. So he means this kind of effect. And it's been around with Roland for many, many years. The first choke technology that appeared with Roland was in 1992, at the end of 1992 with the TD7, release of the TD7. So he's actually saying this kind of choke, and I'll also give you the pedal view. Here it is. Okay. So he's saying this kind of choke, okay. But when I hit again, it's a normal. Okay, so you're saying it's actually stuck on choke. Well, there's two possibilities you can do for fixing it. First of all, check your cables, okay? The cable needs to be totally in. This is what happens sometimes. People are really, especially metal drummers, they're really playing a lot and they're choking and everything and they're hitting the cymbal and at the same time choking it. Sometimes maybe the cable pops out. So check if your cable is well connected inside the CY13. Second, also see if, in case you're using a TD17 or a TD27, if the connection is really tight, you know, the multi-core, if the connection on the end of the module, on the side of the module is really tight. And third one, switch on and off the module, okay? So if something happens, for instance, if there's a triggering always repeating itself, and also when a choke is still happening or whatever, very simple, switch the module off and then back on. Because it resets the triggers, maybe there's some electricity thing loop going on inside because it's still an electrical instrument as well, an electrical device, okay? And sometimes due to power problems or a mix-up or whatever goes wrong with the electricity, sometimes it just needs to reset itself and then it will be fixed. If it's then still auto-choking, there might be something wrong with your cymbal. But before you start panicking about the cymbal condition, first of all, check your cable connection. Number two, also switch the module off and on, check again cable connection, and then number three, if it's still happening, there might be a problem. A very interesting way and a very easy way to actually check if your actual cable is still good, because it might also be a cable problem, is to just use another cymbal with the same cable and see how it reacts there. If that auto choke is working normally, then it's kind of bad news that maybe the cymbal, there's something wrong with the cymbal. Okay, so that's how you need to proceed. Cable, module, check up with other cymbal, and then check again if the choke is still happening. Okay, Jewu, I hope this actually answered your question. Okay, next question is from Kerry. Hi Michael, I have a Roland TD17. Congratulations, that's a great drum set. And some common complaints of the module is that the sounds out of the box on the TD17 are not so good. Haha. Are you able to give some advice on how to use the pad EQ settings for the module? And I've started playing around with these settings already, but would like to know how to set them specifically for drums and cymbals, etc. Well, that's a very good question, because I happen to be designing some kits for the TD27 this past week. I'm still working on my artist kits. I'm not completely satisfied yet, but first of all, a very important knowledge for you all to know is that the TD17, the TD27, the cymbal sounds and most of the tom and snare sounds are based on the sounds of the TD50. but I was actually also involved in let's say, redesigning some of those sounds to make them a little bit better, a little bit more suitable for the 17 and 27. So these sounds are actually, they are good. But what you're talking about is of the presets. The presets in the TD-17, well, some of those presets, and I'm not in charge of the choice of presets, but some of those presets indeed are a little bit weak. But in Asia, for instance, sometimes they like this kind of dry preset, but in Europe and in the States, everybody's listening to heartbeat music, and it might be that some of those sounds are actually a little bit, let's say, out of the league for some of the harder, the louder drummers. Okay. Also for me, I actually, in my performances, rarely use a preset as is. I totally rework on it and I make it my own. So, as in the TD-27, you have exactly the same EQ setting as in the TD-50, but also some of these EQ functions are also used in the TD-17. I will show you some of the things you can do. And it starts with creating room and creating energy. So I have the display right here. Let's go into Kit, Edit, and let's see if I can share. Ah yeah, okay, Kit, Edit. Of course, we need to go to Pad EQ. So first of all, you see that, for instance, on my crash cymbals, you see I actually mute some of the low end. Now this is an important thing. If you want your module to really kick a lot of energy, you need to make room for each instrument, and that's like in a recording. So the first thing I did actually was, for instance, work on the kick and the snare. Okay, so this is my kick sound. I'll mute the microphone. This is actually the drum set I'm working on. Now I left the module screen on, and you see with every instrument I play, the EQ setting is totally different. So let's go through them. This is, for instance, my instruments, my EQ setting for the kick sound. Now what I'm doing here, why is this such a V shape? Well, very simple. I don't like, and that's one of the things also in the TD-17, I don't like that puck, puck, puck in the mid-range. So I actually removed the puck, 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 there's a lot of comments on this, which makes it a little bit machine gun-like. I removed it in the EQ setting. So let me show you what it normally sounds like. And here's what I did. So this frequency, this one, I don't like that too much. I like a kick sound to be high and low and powerful. So I removed that, and this Q setting is very important to work with. It means that you're actually making a very steep top, so you can actually concentrate on a frequency. So this is a method I use, and it's called subtractive EQ. You actually are getting rid of some frequencies that annoy you instead of amplifying the ones you only like. And this creates energy and power inside your drum sound, complete drum sound image. So let me go very slow, and let me show you what the Q setting, so this top Q setting, okay, does. Or in reverse, I can also look for the frequency that annoys me, and for this one I need to put it plus 15 a very specific EQ setting, the sharpest one you have, it's 8.0, and then I just look for the frequency that annoys me most. That's the one I really don't like too much, so I remove that frequency. Okay, and then on the low end, I can push it a little bit. And then to compensate for the fact that I removed the 400 Hz to -15 with a Q setting of, so a very steep frequency settings, very specific, I add some highs. Now let me show you this sound without the EQ. And now with. It sounds like a completely different kick drum. It's amazing what you can do with EQ. Same goes for the snare. Okay, I'll play the snare drum a little bit. It's one of the new snare drums I've been designing, but I also use the EQ to make it better. Okay, let's see what I did here. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, please remember that this button, the H and R button, is very important because you can have a completely separate EQ setting for the head and for the rim. Let me show you what changes there. Now what I usually do for snare drum, because I actually increase the low end for the kick drum, right? So I want to make room, I want the snare drum to totally take over, and it's not a coincidence, around 200 and 400 Hertz. You know, remember? That's the frequency where I actually made the dip for the kick drum, and in that frequency I actually put the snare. So they work together. And this is what I do. As you can see, I can go very steep. Okay, let me do this. And then separate for the rim. And for the rim, I always add a little bit of that mid-range, low mid-range, low end. And I usually do go in between 200 and 300, 400 Hertz. It's a lot of experience, but this is actually one of the settings you can start with. So push the low end of the kick drum a little bit, but also, you know, try to find a little dip around 400 Hertz. Put that down for the kick drum. It sometimes makes a lot of room for the snare. And then you have a warmer drum sound in total. You will have a warmer drum sound. Let's listen to the combination of both. 1, 2, 3. Now what about the toms? Well, the toms, really interesting as well. Check my EQ settings here for the toms. This is a dip for 500 Hertz. Here, this one, I removed it a little bit. You see, I'm using totally different EQ settings for each tom. And one very particular thing, I'm always pushing the low end around 80 or 100. Okay, 125 for instance for the second tom, which is a normal thing to do. But also for the floor tom a little bit more 80. But I'm also removing this. 20 Hertz, okay, I'm actually cutting away some of the very low end because I want to make some room there for the kick. You see? So this way also the kick and the toms will work together and everything will sound more powerful and warmer. And the big advantage of this is that you actually have a low floor tom like this one, but the kick still goes deeper. Okay, so you can do something like this. So that becomes really interesting. Now for the cymbals, same thing. You don't need a lot of low end on the cymbals, so I usually cut it away. Cymbals, I'll let you hear it without the microphone. You see, I'm cutting a little bit away from the low end, okay? I also have separate EQ for the bell, for instance. And this is how I make my right sound. When I hit the bell, I don't want it to be like king, king, king. No, I want it to sound warm and within the cymbal character. On the edge, I want it to wash. So I will probably need a little bit more of high-end frequencies to cut through with the drums. Especially when you play it together with the hi-hat like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, so actually when I hit the edge, it's actually a little bit more powerful in the high end. So these are some of the tips I can actually give you. Of course, it all depends also on what you are using for monitoring. Please, if you do any EQ settings, do it on a headphone when you're actually doing this for your TD-17. And usually it's good to always use the same headphone. I'm using in-ears, which are full range. So it depends. And then check on the speakers afterwards, okay? And if a sound engineer comes and harasses you, hey, you need to change your EQ or whatever, first make it sound good for yourself because you're actually playing, okay? And then try to negotiate with the sound engineer. Okay, Carrie, these are some of the ideas. Please copy-paste this onto your TD-17, but I even have a better idea. Why don't you download my artist kits for the TD-17? You can go to my website, michaelschackmusic.com. In the shop, you will find the TD-17 artist kits, which you can download. It's a full pack, and those come with their specific EQ settings. And the good thing is, you can just use those EQ ideas and copy-paste those on the rest of your presets which you prefer to play with on the TD-17. So that's another thing that's now actually very, very good service. There's DrumTech, there's me, there's V-Expressions. Many people are actually providing artist kits or custom kits for the TD-17, but mine are the best ones because they've been tested with PA systems. So my artist kits, I've never released them without a couple of months of really PA testing on the stages and so on, because I know I want them to work for you in PA settings as well. And this way you can start a relationship, a good relationship, not a lovely relationship, but a good professional relationship with a sound engineer, which you might have to cooperate with. Okay, Kerry, I hope this answers your question. Man, so many questions coming in. Okay, here we go. A question from Ray Paul. Is there a resource a musician can go to purchase and download Ableton tracks of popular songs to use as backing tracks? Alternatively, is there a way to sample songs and pull out the drums? That's a very good question, Ray, Paul, and I will answer it very specific. Okay, first of all, Ableton is also my preferred software, and for the people who don't know, this is Ableton. I'll let you see it. Up, Ableton coming. Yoo-hoo! Ah no, that's Spotify. But I'll give you the Ableton. Here we go. This is my Ableton. Up. So this is Ableton. Just to give you an idea, I'll get this. Okay, Ableton. One of the things is you put in samples. Okay, and then you just play along like this. You just jam along. So Ableton, you can make loops, and you can actually, and as you're hearing, there's no drums inside. This is a loop I found online, and maybe I should, because that's also part of my answer, me answering your question. So this loop is actually a sample pack loop. So you can go online and find a bunch of sample packs in different genres of music, okay? And all these sample packs come with their own synth loops, with their bass loops and so on. And also they have full tracks, but they also provide the stems. And stems are, for instance, separate tracks, drums, bass, mid-range, which can be keyboards or guitars, and then vocals and maybe some percussion for the high end for you to play along to. So these stems, when you put them together inside the multi-track session, you will have the full track. Now, commercially released music is not usually released as stems, only for professional remixers and producers or for competitions. And Splice, for instance, Splice.com sometimes organizes remix competitions for musicians to be part of, and then you can actually download some tunes in separate stems. But that's more like a competition. You have to also digitally sign that you won't be distributing those only for remix purposes and so on. So that's one way to go. But the usual commercial music doesn't come with separate stems. Now, for my mashups, for instance, I have quite some tricks, and I also have quite some connections in the music business where I can send, for instance, an email to a publisher or to a composer. Hey, can I have your master stems without the drums, for instance, because I want to co-promote your music? And that sometimes happens. But there's also some software solutions out there which enable you to actually, in the cloud, upload a track, and then it comes back in separate stems. And one of these is Splitter.com is one. Audio Max, I think, is one. You can actually find those, for instance, stems online. Okay, when you put that, when you input that into Google, there will be a bunch of solutions, online solutions, which some you have to pay for. There's also a recent one which I tested, which was really good. It's called Moises.ai. So Moises.ai. It's people from Spain, I think, and they're doing a really good job. So you upload your track to the cloud, to the Moises track site, and then it'll come back. You have to subscribe to the Moises technology, and then it'll come back in separate stems. You can choose, do I want my drums to be removed or just my vocals separate, and so on. You can actually input those preferences when you upload the track into their system in the cloud. But I'm a very big fan of Isotope RX. And Isotope RX is not in the cloud, but it's actually a plugin that you need to download onto your computer. You have to pay for it, but it's an incredible result. It's a very good sampler. You see the waveform, and you can actually, while you're actually playing the waveform, you can experiment with, okay, when I remove the drums, how does it sound? Ah, maybe a little bit more drums. Then you can put the vocals higher, and so on. It's an amazing plugin. It's called Isotope RX8, and the actual part of RX8 which makes you do these things is called Music Rebalance. The name says it itself. So Paul, I think this answers your question, but let me show you again one of the things that is really important when you want to play along in 2020 and 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, please get some software, a digital audio workstation for your laptop or your computer. It's so much better than just using those MP3 players we used to use till 5-6 years ago. Because this is what you can do. You see my Ableton running in the split screen there, okay? I'll go to the sample. So this is my sample. This is what's happening. And I'll give you the big screen. You see that's a loop, and I set it from bar number 5 to bar number 7. And the computer does this till I say stop. And then it starts again. Now, that's one thing, and I like to play along with loops without the click, but I can also, and this one is my click in Ableton, which has separate control. Check this out, when I press play. Here we go, this is just a click. I go to my mixer page, okay, and as you can see, I have separate control of my click. You see me here on the side, I'm actually doing a small level control there, okay. Right bottom corner, solo it says. That's actually my click cue, okay. And then I can start and stop it again. And then my click will go along with the sample in the exact same tempo. And separate level control. And I can also switch it off. And this is so handy. Here we go. So that's a very nice thing, and that's why I use Ableton. It's very convenient for drummers to be able to do this, to play along, to put a click on yes or no, and you don't have to actually sample a click, it's just built in, and there you go. It's so inspiring. Start and stop, there you go. And I'm using the spd-sx to control my Ableton completely. I will get back to that a little bit later. Okay, Paul, so again, iZotope, Moises.ai, a very good one. Splitter is also a very popular one, but I mostly like Moises and the iZotope one. Okay, next question. Jeru, it is a TD17 module. So again, Jeru, you need to check switch on and off the module for that auto choke thing, and check your cymbal condition. Okay, thank you for elaborating. Second question from Kerry. TD17 module again. The pad sensitivity settings, there is a curve setting which can be set to things like linear, lock 1, lock 2. Can you give some advice on what these are? Okay, I'll show you this, and this is actually a very good question, Kerry, because many people are still, oh, I'll put it on this curve or whatever. So I need to go to my module. Okay, here we go. And I'll get this back to the, here we go. All right. That's strange. Okay. Let me check what's happening here. We don't have power anymore on that camera, I see. Well, then it's gone, no problem. That's strange. Oh, there it comes. Here's the camera. All right. See, there's always something happening live. So, okay, Carrie, the trigger settings for the module, the special thing that you're asking about, it's in trigger. Okay, parameters, here we go. You have the curves here, linear. Okay, I always put everything on linear. Linear actually means when you start playing very softly, it goes linear to 127 to the highest volume. So it's a very natural curve, okay? So I start playing the snare drum, for instance, and you will see it here in the display. It starts with a linear curve. So I'm totally in control of the volume, the very soft volume, like this one, a value of only 5 or 6, even 0, and then I come up. So the module actually totally linearly follows my strength of hits, okay? Like this. So just put all those triggers on linear. Now, when I would go to lock, for instance, on exponential, this means that actually, even when I hit it really softly, okay, it will already make a lot of noise. Let me show you. So what happens is, when I actually still hitting very softly, but I don't have to do big movements to immediately reach the highest settings. I'll show you. And I'm already at maximum without hitting it really, really loud. So that's the exponential. It's like maths. Linear curve, exponential. There's two different versions, XP1 and XP2, which amplifies the effect of hitting a little bit harder. It amplifies directly going into the top 127 volumes. But there's also lock, and lock is like a fixed volume. So let me show you this. I'm going to go from lock to linear, okay? With the same strength, okay? Same strength. This is the lock. This is linear. This is lock. This is linear. Lock enables me, when I hit it really softly, to already have a lot of volume, okay? So I would recommend just put it on linear, every single instrument. That's when it starts feeling like an acoustic drum set. When you play soft, it will be soft. When you play loud, it will be top volume, okay? There's some people that like lock, for instance, dance drummers like myself. I don't like lock because I really want to punch that pedal, but there's people that are a little bit older or in less physical condition that just don't have the strength anymore in their right leg, and they want their engineer or their producer or their artist wants every single bass drum to be the same volume. They will put, for instance, that curve on lock or even on loud. And this is the loud setting, okay? It means that even when I actually kick very softly, it already makes 97 volume. Check this out. This is my kick. I really softly, and it's already 97. With linear, I do something completely different. Then it becomes something more natural, okay? without the... Now, again, loud, like for instance this one, loud 2. Check this out. So a really soft hit will result in a very maximum volume. That's not what I want. I want it to be linear. And that's why so many drummers should have it in linear, because then you can do some things like this. Watch this. I've been working on this exercise, for instance. And this is for the bass drum, so I'll let the bass drum do its thing, okay? So that's why I have it on linear. Every single stroke has its own volume. So I want to physically practice the controlling my foot, okay? I'll put it on the big screen so you can actually, this is linear curve. So everything is translated in a specific volume, and I have it on linear because that helps me in practice. Okay, Carrie, I hope this answers your question. Let's quickly go to the next question. From Paul, thank you for your help with the mic issue. Is the mixer you mentioned available in the UK? Well, it's actually available, it's still on its way, and you know, the things that happened in the UK these past few days, the thing is containers are stuck everywhere. But let me show you the mixer. It's called Drum Mix. Okay, and I'm really working together with my partners in Asia to get it distributed as soon as possible also in the UK. Okay, but at this moment you can find it on Amazon. Okay, so it's already for sale in Amazon, and I think it's 179 euros for the complete package. It comes with an adapter, and also you can connect your phone, because there's a USB cable provided which outputs it to your phone, and with a camera connection kit, if you're using an iPhone, you can actually stream digital audio straight into your phone. So all the analog inputs come here, then it goes straight out digitally through the USB out into your phone, and this sounds much better than an iRig, especially for people that want to go online and stream. That's why I actually co-developed it with some very talented engineers in Taiwan. Okay, next question. It's the Alpha Drumworks Drum Mix. Paul, you're very welcome to actually send me an email or send me a message on Facebook on my artist page, and I'll send you the link where you can get it, okay, and get more info on it. Thank you very much for being interested. Next question from Kerry. Yes, I know what you mean about the puck on the TD7T kick. I like the way you find the frequency. You don't like that. Glad I was very happy to be helping. Drum Lover. Wow, he has a question. Drum Lover, that's a nice name. Hey, Drum Lover. All right. Hi there, just joined. Is an electronic drum set better than an acoustic? What are the pros and cons of an electric drum set? Well, very simple. An electric drum set is an electronic drum set. An acoustic drum set is an acoustic drum set. And you have to think of it like this. And I've said this many times. You have electric guitars, you have acoustic guitars. Each has not only its practical purposes, but also its musical purposes. Today, there's not one better than the other. okay? It's not only a musical choice, but also a practical choice. First of all, many people live in environments, flats or houses, where you can make a lot of noise with acoustic sets. So in the beginning, when the electronic sets came out, of course the noise problem was a fix. Whoa, a drum set that doesn't make acoustic noise. But now it's also technology that helped it to become a proper, a grown-up instrument. And that's why I play both, acoustic and electric. I'm very well known for my electric work, but it's also thanks to being an acoustic drummer that I can translate some of the sounds I have inside my head to the electronic set. So there's no better or worse. It's equal instruments. There's no better, synths, are they better than pianos? No. They're just instruments, completely different instruments, but same playing technique. Same with guitars. Electric guitar, the chords are still the same, acoustic guitars, electric guitars, but it's different instrument. Same for the drums. And they each deserve their personality and their respect. So that's my answer. The pros and cons of an electronic drum set. Well, I invite you to watch all those clips that are out there on YouTube. Also within Drumeo, lots of lessons on electronic drums, but I did, but also acoustic drums, and make your mind up. You can choose for yourself, you can listen to that, and then your answer will be coming into your face, especially on Drumeo. Okay, next question from Drum Lover. Is an electronic drum set better than... you already asked this question. You actually sent it 2 times. Okay, thanks Drum Lover for... Aaron is asking, Linkmaster, Michael, what is the condenser mic that is closer to the window in your studio space? Do I have a window? That one. That's actually for my acoustic set. Okay, and that's a part... Wait, I'll turn that camera a little bit, okay? Check this out, that's my acoustic set, and those are 2 room mics. I have one here, and I have one there. So 2 condenser mics that are in front of my acoustic set when I need to record acoustic, okay? So those are picking up some room, and also right in front of the drum set, so it gets a lot of power into those microphones. And they're actually Valve microphones, so I use them to record drums with. All right. Thanks for the question, Aaron. Next question. Could you briefly show the small portable mixer again? Thanks, and thanks for all the answers. Kerry, I will show it to you again. Also for the people, you can find it online, alphadrumworks.com. It's called Drum Mix, and here we go. But this is not supposed to be a promo thing, okay? It's, as you can see, my logo is on there, developed by Michael Schack or whatever. Yeah, by Michael Schack. I'm so proud. And the most important thing is that it has a bunch of signals, a bunch of inputs, and all these inputs are stereo, also mini jack inputs in the middle. You can have full controls. Just look for it online, Alpha Drumworks Drum Mix. That's, just make a screenshot. Okay, Kerry, you did that? Okay, thank you. So check it out. It'll be available in all stores very soon. But I've been saying this for the last couple of months. But, you know, COVID. There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, there's also a couple of questions that came in earlier this week. And I'm going to go to them because some of them are really, really interesting. And one of these questions is from, let's see, from Roland Bisna. And he's asking, I'm planning, and this is a very important question if you ask me, I'm planning to get myself a new MacBook Pro with the L1 chip. As you know, Apple now developed their own chips, their own processors in their newest range of MacBooks. So no more Intel chips. And this, of course, changes a little bit, changes a lot for the software developers that actually write software or release software specifically for Mac, because this chip works completely different and they need to reprogram some of the algorithms for their software to work with the new MacBooks. So he's asking, so Joran is asking, will my module already be compatible? So I guess you have a Roland or an Alesis or whatever module compatible with my new MacBook when I hook it up. What's the latest? Some people tell me to wait for another few months. Well, first of all, when a computer brand comes out with new technology, it always takes a couple of months before it actually they get the bugs out, and already, okay, they tested it before they released it, but still there's bugs appearing, there's production problems appearing, sometimes batteries don't work, and so on, so on, so on. I always, and this is, let's say, the Bible of electronic music technology, always wait for a couple of months before updating any of your software, any of your operating system, especially on Windows, also same thing, any of your plugins, before you're sure and see online that everything is stable. It takes a couple of months. So the MacBooks came out 6 or 7, maybe 6 weeks ago, or maybe longer. I think it was in the middle of fall. I'm gonna wait, if I'm gonna get one, I'm gonna wait at least 6 months before I get one. Also, the same thing with the new OS Big Sur. So the new operating system Big Sur for Mac. Ladies and gentlemen, please wait for another couple of weeks before you update your Macs to the latest operating system, because most of the plugins, even now, plugin developers are communicating that they're ready, the L1, it all works now, but still, some of the other plugins or some of the other software programs that you're making music with might still be dodgy, and especially when you're using illegally downloaded software. If you're gonna upgrade to the latest operating system, you will have to illegally download again and illegally install it again. And that's not really nice towards the developers and the composers and the musicians and so on. So please wait for another few months before everything is really set and there's no complaints online anymore. Just check online on some of the forums. When the storm goes down and the sun starts shining, that's when you upgrade. Not before this. And it always takes easily 4 months. Easily. So just to be sure. Thank you for your question, Joran. The next question. This is from Bart. It's actually said, I would like to start posting clips of my playing along to music on Instagram. Good idea. Now, should I use iRig for audio into my phone? Is there anything better? Yes, I just showed it. So the drum mix, yeah, it's better because you can connect it. The iRig, ladies and gentlemen, it's a good solution, but it's mostly made for singer-songwriters and guitar players. It's not for drummers. So there's many people posting things with an iRig online which sounds completely mono. And even the latest smartphones have stereo speakers and stereo sounds coming into your iPhone ears. So please, ladies and gentlemen, make the effort to at least buy something that actually records your performance stereo before you put it online. So the iRig, not really a solution. It's also a little bit difficult to use because if you want to use it stereo, you need to change one of the inputs. It's a drag. And also, just go for a nice submixer. Okay, like the analog one, which has a digital out, which you can connect to your smartphone with a camera connection kit. And that's why I came up with the drum mix. So thank you for your question. So the iRig, nah, not for drummers. Great for guitar players and also great for singer-songwriters, but not for drums. It's not ideal. Okay, Inga Johnson. She's asking, and that's a really good question, would you know if there's ever going to be a Hit Like a Girl competition separately for female e-drummers? A few years ago, this Hit Like a Girl drumming competition was really big, okay? You had the Guitar Center Drum-Off, that's not happening anymore. You had a lot of we even had the V-Drums contest for a couple of years, which was really successful, both for women and men. And then they said, you know what? There's not too many women getting a lot of exposure, female drummers, which totally changed now because there's female drummers, great female drummers everywhere, all over the internet. But let's say 8 to 9 years ago, the situation was completely different. And they started organizing Hit Like a Girl, specific competitions only for female drummers. And now she's asking, will there ever be a female e-drummer competition? Well, I don't think so, because the total drum market is now multi-gender. And it's actually getting better and better. And I'm a big supporter of having more female drummers and more whatever gender drummers on there, just enjoying, showing their playing, showing the enjoyment of playing music. So I think I'm not a big supporter of a separate Hit Like a Girl competition for women because those years are behind us, okay? And to be very honest, it's better to have men and women all play together at the same festival stages and just, you know, see that it's just about drumming, and any genre, any gender can be very talented, has its own sound and so on. They should play all together. So I don't think there's going to be a specific E-drums competition for girls or women. Okay, and then greatest for okay, and here's a very, finally a playing question. Here's a very interesting question from Ira Tome, and she's asking, greatest frustration is a small hit area on right cymbal. I'm used to getting many variations on acoustic zildjians. Any workarounds? So, acoustic cymbals, okay, perfect. Now electronic drums, what about my right technique? Well, very simple. If you cannot play, and I will be very frank, if you cannot play a decent right technique, if you cannot get a decent right sound out of your electronic pads, then probably your technique on an acoustic cymbal is not that successful either. This is a very risky statement, I know, but I will show you what I mean. First of all, let me play some right cymbals, okay? So this is the technique I use, and it works on every single pad, okay? The only thing is the diameter. But if you need the whole diameter of your acoustic right to make a decent right sound, probably you should also work a little bit on your right technique, because I can use the whole diameter here on my digital right pad, but still I'm only using this part and this part because I see it on my stick marks, okay? So here I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'll give you the front camera, okay? So you can actually see what I'm doing. It's the typical, yeah, I'm playing the bell with the rim of the stick, with the neck of the stick, okay? I'm not playing it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm playing it really like on an acoustic cymbal with the neck of the stick. Even when you actually have a small right, a smaller, a smaller diameter, it's still the same movement. And you need to go cross. So from this position to there and back, okay? And I see it on the stick marks of my right cymbal. It's a very specific area of my right cymbal. So it doesn't matter if the diameter is big or small, it will still be the same movement. So you need to work on this technique. And I'll play it very slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and now let's go to another set, okay? Let's, for instance, do this. So a little bit of blues, okay? And I'm gonna dive in the cymbal, and even, okay, the cymbal is a little bit bigger, but even with a smaller crash, and do it like this. 1, 2, 3. So I don't have to move around this cymbal all the time, okay? I'm just here. And on the edge, I do this. Other drum set, why not? This one, a little bit more jazz. This is jazz, okay, on a digital cymbal, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. as you see, I'm really staying here. So I'm not even using here. I don't use there. I'm actually staying right there. So it's just a matter also psychologically to don't think about the smaller diameter of your pad. Just think about the position where you want to stick to be, and then listen to the sound, how it reacts. Okay? So there's a workaround. It's actually also working on your cymbal technique on the acoustic cymbal. Okay? And then translating that to a more consistent technique on the digital cymbal. I hope this answers your question, and thank you. That was a really, really good question, Ira. Okay. Next question from Airborne Spider. If Roland came out, this is a good example of rumors hitting the internet. If Roland came out with a new module, VAD-506, but with a TD50 module, what would be the advantages over the current model? So, do you know more than I do? I can't tell anything. So, the VAD-506, that's the set I have here, okay? That's the set, and it comes with the TD27 module, okay? This is the TD27 module right here, but you can see it right here, okay? TD27 module, VAD-506. So what would be the advantage to wait for a new VAD with the TD50 module? You don't have to wait. You can just actually exchange the TD27 module with the TD50 module and then put your TD27 module on the internet for sale. Because there's people that have older V-drum sets that would be interested in actually buying just the TD27 module. Why not? So that's one thing you can do. You're there. So, and then he says, what would be the advantages over the current module? Well, first of all, it's all about the TD50 module that you want to use then. So first of all, TD27, great sounds based on the TD50, and I actually call the TD27 a TD50 Lite. Because, for instance, the TD50 has lots of separate outputs. The TD27 has 4, which is more than the 2 with the TD17, okay? The TD50 has more, let's say, editing possibilities on some of the sounds, but the TD27 has the latest transient designer, which is also in the TD50, but in TD27 it's the latest version. So also, ladies and gentlemen, I want to urge you to check. It doesn't matter if you play Alesis or Yamaha or Roland, please check on the internet sites of your manufacturer brand, okay, of the brand of your drum set, if there's any factory or system updates. Because some of the system updates actually come with new functions. Same with the TD17, recently, new system update, new preset sounds. TD27, the same thing, new system update, some of the new preset drum sets, which sound a little bit better than the initial ones that came out in the beginning of this year. So, when you just exchange the TD50, the TD27 module in your VAD with the TD50, you'll get all the TD50 advantages, also separate faders on the front panel. So you don't have to actually go into the, here you can do it with the volume controls, but also you can output more instruments separately in a studio situation. So just go on the internet site, on the internet, and compare the TD50 with the TD27. Watch those YouTube clips. There's actually many new clips that came out the last month, in the last 4 weeks, that actually have people comparing the TD50 to the TD27, specifically in combination with the VAD-506. It's on there. Go to YouTube and check out those clips. I hope this answers your question. So, TD50 is flagship, TD27 is underneath. That's the difference. So there's lots of things more possible with the TD50. Okay, Rhythmic Rob. Any insight to getting both zones of Roland PD85 to work with the Yamaha EAD10? One zone works fine, but not the second. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there's a very specific thing you need to check if you have older pads and you want to combine it with newer instruments. Check if those newer instruments, newer modules, actually can take dual trigger inputs, okay? Most of the Roland pads are dual trigger. This means you need to use stereo cables, okay? These are the cables that you need to use. They have actually 2 rings. So this might be one of the problems you're facing actually. What's his name again? Wait, it needs to be here, right. No, it needs to be there. Yeah, because this one has two. Here we go. So, Rhythmic Rob, this might be a first question. First thing you need to check, don't use mono cables because dual pads only work with stereo cables. So 2 rings, okay? 2 rings on the jack. And also then you need to check with Yamaha if the EAD10, that specific input you want to use, actually takes dual trigger. If it's just a mono trigger input, of course your dual zone won't work. So please check that first. And second, also check the cable, okay? I'm not so familiar with the EAD10, and of course 1-0 works fine because that's actually a mono trigger coming in. Okay, next question. I saw some questions coming in again on the, oh man, it's a very busy stream today. Yeah. Here. Question from Kerry. Have you tried using Linux and some of the open source DAW software? No, because it's all crap. Ha! I'm sorry, but Linux? No, 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 no. Because this is the reason. I'm a touring musician, okay? And I want to be compatible with other musicians all over in the world. So we use Ableton or Logic. But those run on OS X or on Windows. That's the situation. So I'm not going to go into third-party open source DAW software, first of all, which is not compatible with other musicians because it just makes things very, very complicated. And second, open source DAW software mostly is not compatible with all the third-party plugins I want to use, like for instance my plugin synths from Arturia, my RX8 plugin to remove drums from a track from Isotope, and so on. So please, ladies and gentlemen, it's very cool to be more adventurous in computer language, but it won't help you making music because you're spending more time to checking what's compatible and maybe doing open source things and whatever, which is very fine, it's nice, but that's a hobby by itself. You're here in this session and on Drumeo to make music. So you don't want to spend zillions and zillions hours of times to make things work first before you play your first note. So that's why I'm saying stay away. That's my opinion. Make it easy on yourself and just play. Switch on a laptop, load in Ableton or Logic or Cubase or whatever. Plugin works, everything works, bam, there you go. Also, the Roland modules are not compatible with Linux in their latest version anyway. So, end of story. For me, because I play Roland. Thanks, Kerry, for the question. It was a very good question, though. Okay, next question. Oh, man. This is from Rachel. Hi, Rachel. Merry Christmas. Hi, Michael. Any tips on multi-camera recordings from where you set them up to transitions? So any tips on multi-camera recordings from where you set them up to transitions? Yes, but can I come back to that in a later stream? Because this is maybe a little bit more specific, producing your live streams and everything. And there's a bunch of questions on electronic drums still because this is my last one of this year. So Rachel, if that's okay, you can actually send me a Facebook message and I will reply to you. But specific ones, very simple. GoPros work fine, any action cameras. Lighting is very important, okay? And also, I use the latest Atom Mini Pro from Blackmagic switcher. I just bought this. It's an incredible switcher, better quality as well. So I left the old one out of there. There's lots of things, but video is very specific. Camera settings, setups, and so on. Lighting is very important. So there's a lot of factors there, which I cannot go into now because there's so many other questions on the drums, actually. So Rachel, I'm very sorry, but please send me an email and we'll get it going. And also, I'll do a separate stream in the future, certainly about how to record camera settings. That's already in the works, actually. Okay, next question. This is from Blue Oyster Pearl. I remember you. Hi, Michael. I love when I see your VDrum Facebook posts. Just wanted to thank you for a fantastic job overall. and with Romeo. Best wishes for 2021. Ladies and gentlemen, and also to you, Blue Oyster Pro, thank you very much for the appreciation. Yeah, I've been quite busy and active with producing clips and everything, and there's a bunch coming. You know, COVID made me stay at home, so I might as well, music is not cancelled, so I might as well play and record. But most important, I wish you all not only a best 2021 and not only a Merry Christmas, but a better 2021, okay? A better 2021. It'll take a while before everything gets back to normal, but let's please enjoy the ride just going back to normal. So my message to you, I wish you all a better 2021 and a healthy one, okay? I hope you're all staying healthy. Okay, another question just came in. Fair point, Michael Carey is saying, about the Linux. Thank you, Carey, for the appreciation. And then there's two more questions, I think, from earlier this week. Dan is asking about the following. Hey Michael, most electronic kits have moved away from rubber pads. Oh, thank God. To mesh. So mesh is, you know, the trampoline technology Roland invented, and then all the brands, all the other brands started working with mesh again, also as soon as the patents were free. I assume this to keep impact volume low, whilst allowing some flexibility and better representation of a real drum head. Well, there, my dear Dan, you make a little bit of a mistake. Mesh is actually, the concept of mesh heads is not to replace rubber pads, but to enable the drummer to have a better feel on the drums, on the electronic drums, because mesh heads enable you to actually change the tension of the heads. And I showed you this before. Listen to this, okay? And I'll lower down the volume of the kit. This is what mesh enables me to do. Need to switch on the microphone. So when Mr. K of Roland actually gave green light to his engineers to when they discovered mesh and the big advantages for the engineers to actually start working on a complete V-drum set, which was a TD10 at that point, he said, V-drums, very important. Like acoustic player needs to be able to have action difference between diameter and pad. So what he actually meant was very simple. When you play a smaller drum, the tension of the head will be higher. So this gives you more rebound, correct? But when you go to a bigger drum, like a snare, actually it would be great to also lower the tension of your playing surface so you have a more deep feel, like with acoustic drums. There's a big difference between hitting an 8-inch tom and a 16-inch floor tom. That's what the concept of mesh head is far and foremost, number one, is better playing feel. It's not the representation of wide drum heads on to make the set look better. That's an advantage of mesh as well. But the first, foremost concern was to actually get rid of the rubber and to make it feel better. That's the most important function when mesh heads came around, and that was in 1997, so that's already nearly, that's 23 years ago, okay? That's when the TD10 came out, 1997. So that's what mesh is all about, okay? The rubber pads, of course, they were cheaper in the making, so they stayed for a longer time. So why didn't manufacturers, you're asking, just use real heads? Well, very simple, because they make noise. Real heads vibrate. They produce waveforms. Mesh heads have holes, small holes in them, so actually the air, when you hit them, the air actually goes through. So there's no actually waveforms made. There's no noise made. The only noise you hear is the noise of impact, like this. Oh, sorry. This is impact noise. But it's not vibrating noise like a string which is vibrating, or a drum head that's actually making, you know, there's no holes, so the air actually helps the drum head to make sound. So because sound is air waves, okay? So when there's no air coming through, the air actually transports the sound. That's what mesh is not doing. It just You have impact noise, but there's nothing after it. That's the concept of mesh. And that's also why manufacturers don't use real heads, because real heads are closed surfaces and they vibrate with the air, and that makes sound. Surely they would still be fairly quiet on a small depth pad with no Rizzo head underneath. No, they're actually very, very noisy. It's horrific sound. When you put a head, a regular drum head on a drum ply, a single ply drum pad, you know, like a PD-120 or an Alesis, it's horrible. It sounds like a rototom. It's not horrible, but it sounds like a rototom. It's very, very, very loud. And is there a triggering issue using wheel skins? Of course, because they're not only vibrating, but also making noise. So the trigger is not only picking up the vibration of the surface, but also the noise it makes, because the trigger is actually kind of a small microphone, okay? So it actually not only picks up the impact, but also the vibration. And you don't want it to pick up the vibration, because that will trigger the sound again in the module. So that's the reason why they use mesh. And your final question then is, electronic kits have been around for over 30 years? No, they've been around for nearly, I think the first ones were somewhere in the middle of the 70s, so longer, more than 40 years. A common complaint is that the height of the stand kit doesn't allow the drums to be set high enough. In my case, for instance, it was sometimes not low enough. Are manufacturers aware of this, and can we expect to see improvement? Well, here's the improvement then. Now we're using drum stands. We're using drum stands, and many drummers always use drum stands instead of rack systems as well, especially for touring. For instance, they had a pad here on the L rod, okay? This one is a L, regular Tama stand, but put the pad on there instead of a tom. Or for instance, and I'm using a regular bass drum. So this is the improvement. This is the acoustic design look of a drum set, and you're there. So this is the big improvement. No more rack. You see, this is the same with other brands like ATV. Also, rack, less rack, more stands. This is the big improvement, and this will happen more and more. But there's one thing. Stands are expensive and also bulky. So for the smaller electronic drum sets, there will always be racks. And of course, you can actually work with the height and the lowering of the stand. You can put the stand a little bit higher and then come up with all your L rods. I did this in my stand-up drumming clips. I do this with the MDS-20 rack and the MDS-25 rack from the TD-50. Please check out those clips. I'm actually standing up, and I can really put the rack really high with longer L rods, okay? So you can actually adjust the length of your tom holders with the rack still staying down. You just need to put them up really high. That's what you can do. With the TD-17 or TD-27KV, those rods are a little bit lower, so that's more difficult to come really high. But then you have, for instance, some cymbal parts you can use, put them in those clamps, and then you're high again. So it's a little bit of mechano-lego kind of system. And when you're a really tall person, of course, you need to have longer cymbal stands and longer tom stands as well. Okay, I hope this answers your question. Ladies and gentlemen, there's one more last question that's coming in on the, three more. Okay, first of all from Kerry. Because you mentioned mesh pads, are the Roland mesh heads quite bouncy, and are there possible alternatives on finding them too bouncy? Or is it perhaps my technique? Well, actually, Kerry, it's probably the tuning of your mesh heads, because now with the latest digital pads, the mesh heads by Roland are actually 3-ply. You just need to put them lower. So the bouncy mesh head thing is not depending on the brand. It's depending on the actual tension you're applying to the pads. And like I'm showing you here, okay, here I go again. I have this floor tom pad. Of course, the shell sounds a little bit different, but I have it really tension much lower, so it's less bouncy. It's not like ping, ping. That means that your tension of the heads is too high. So you can just make them less bouncy by lowering the tension. It doesn't lower the pitch of your sound. It only lowers the feel the tension, the jumping up and down thing, like the bouncy feel on your pads. Go for it. That's why with every single Roland pad analysis, there's a tuning key. Yes, I'm not actually talking into the set rock. So with every single Roland pad, there's a tuning key. It's for free, provided with every single electronic drum set. And it's actually to change the tension of your mesh heads. With the Yamaha, the silicone pads, of course, there's no tension possible. Tension adjust. So please use the tuning key. It's not only for the rack system, it's also to actually adjust the tension of your digital pads or electronic pads. Okay, and then one but last question. Jim is asking, sorry, maybe you already covered this. What software do you recommend for editing samples to load into the spd-sx? Ableton! Ableton, not only for doing your samples, but also to compose and to compile samples and to combine things and so on, so on, so on, so on. It's such a strong tool for drummers, okay? Ableton is my preferred sample editing, whatever. I can do everything with it. There's synths in there. Ableton is my recommendation. There's Ableton Lite, I think it's 76 euros. Then you have Ableton Normal, which is $235 something. And then it goes up to the Ableton Suite with all the sounds in there. And that's $500, I think. But Ableton is the one I would recommend. Especially just start with the Lite. It's perfect. Start with the Lite. And you can just trial. Download the trial and go for it, okay? So that's my recommendation. And last question, already 80 minutes away. Oh, should you use nylon? Ha! This is a great question to finish off because it was one of the first questions when I started streaming the electronic drums Q&A. Should you use nylon tips when playing on mesh heads? No! This is a complete misunderstanding. Ladies and gentlemen, I use wood tips since 1960, whatever. I always used wood tips, even with rubber pads. I always used wood tips. I didn't change my sticks when I started playing electronic drums. On the contrary, I just used the same drumsticks on my acoustic set as on the electronic set and vice versa. So I always played wood 5A. Now since years I've been playing 5B and I just use the same sticks. And I have a question for you guys. Think about it like this, okay? I know there's a lot of people that say, yeah, but wood, you know, it tears out the mesh head. Never happened to me. And then nylon sounds better. That's bullshit because, sorry, that can be true because the sound is made in the module, not on the, yeah, and nylon gives a better feel. No way. That's all bollocks. It's conspiracy theories in the drumming world. Ladies and gentlemen, I have this very simple question for you guys, okay? And then you understand my point. I'm not changing drumsticks when I play electronic drums, okay? I'm using the same drumsticks as with my acoustic set. You know what? I'm not changing shoes either because I'm using the same pedals. So I have the same feet and the same hands. The whole message of being able to play your drums, your drum abilities, to expand on your drumming, to actually translate your acoustic drumming to the electronic kit, the whole thing is about using the same tools, using the same sticks, having the same sticks, the same tools in your hands, so your hands are not totally changed in feel and everything. Using the same shoes, using the same socks, the socks, the same underwear if you want to. And then translate your playing onto the electronic drum set. That's what technology is helping you to do, to translate your musicality into music on both sets. But just use the same drumsticks, just wear the same clothes, okay? That's my end message for this year's Electronic Drums Q&A, which started when the pandemic started, and it's still going strong. And as you see, there's a lot of questions on there. And I wanna finish off with something. I wanna stress this again, because some people have been asking me, where can I find so much nice electronic playing along music. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna stress this again. It's been a great year for Drumeo, and actually a great Drumeo year for me as well. I'm so happy that we could release the Electrify drumming thing, the full pack. Oh, I'm still talking to you. Okay, so let me go find, okay. Yeah, here it is. Here we go. I'm gonna open Spotify, okay, and I'm gonna go to a very specific drum set with a little bit of volume, okay. Electronic drum. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna actually show you the Spotify playlist. Okay, here's a Spotify playlist. And it's updated. It's been 7 days since I updated it again. Ladies and gentlemen, please find this Spotify playlist, which is called Electrify Your Drumming. It's a Spotify playlist dedicated EDM for drummers, so electronic music for drummers, but it's so much joy to play along to. The tempos are fixed. You will find a lot of different styles in there. And this is a funky track I found last week, 10 days ago. I put it in there, and it's just a good example of play-along music, which has drums in there, but it's for free on Spotify, especially if you have a Spotify subscription, so you can just jam along to it. And it's actually a great tool to just have fun and play along to music that you don't know yet, okay? So here we go. Spotify, I'll let you see the track. It's called Can't Stop Dancing. And that's actually also my life. Can't Stop Dancing. And again, I wish you all, so the Spotify playlist, Electrify Your Drumming with Michael Schack and Drumeo, EDM for drummers. We already have 411 followers, so it's kind of stable. Nobody's leaving, but we can have more followers for sure. And there's lots of spectacular music on there. I actually make a point of it to only put decent tracks on there, which might inspire you to play some drums. I'm gonna go to the front cam. I'm gonna go to the, to the kick cam, and we're gonna jam. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas, a warm Christmas. It will be a little bit different, but please take care of the people around you and yourself, and a better 2021. And I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for all the support and all the appreciation for these Q&A sessions. And also a big, big, big thank you to my buddy Kyle Radomski. He's quite a character. He started all this, so I thank him a lot for the inspiring setting. And also to Aaron Edgar, who is now on the other line at the Drumeo office, checking if the stream is going all well. We are very good friends. We are ice cream freaks. And Aaron, thanks for the assistance today in checking out the stream settings. It's stream settings. And here we go. Can't Stop Dancing. This is for you all. that was fun. Without warming up, good sports. Thank you again. See you next time.